Hey there, Wastelander. Let's see. If you're listening to this holotape, then you must still be standing outside of Vault 101. Trying to get inside, are you? Well, before you go strolling up to the front door, I should probably give you a bit of background on this location. After all, Vault 101 is one of the few vaults that still have people living inside. So there should be a great deal of lore and other interesting details that will help you as I compare the current 2277 vault with its location on the pre-Great War map. If you do manage to make your way in, the following holotape logs should have enough information to help you navigate the halls here. However, some things went down even before I arrived, and there's a bit of mixed feelings and emotions among its residents. If they don't let you in, then hopefully I've provided enough information about this location to satisfy your curiosity. Vault 101 is a large-scale underground nuclear fallout shelter designed for the extended living, protection, and survival of people for an undetermined amount of time. No one really knows exactly when Vault 101 began construction, though it's said that the other vaults in the capital Wasteland began construction sometime before the Great War in the 2060s, making it a good probability that this was the same for Vault 101. Vault 101 consists of 3 sections that I've managed to access: the main entrance or entrance level, the atrium level otherwise known as the upper level, and the lower level. The main entrance or entrance level is where we find the iconic gear-shaped vault door, where many vault dwellers fondly admire the opening and closing sequence of the vault, thus beginning their journey into the wasteland or life underground. This is also called the airlock room, or more commonly referred to as the vault door room. But the map data on my Pip-Boy also shows the entrance level area to hold a few other rooms, like an entrance hall, a storage room, a generator room, and an access room where an overseer escape tunnel connects. Shh, we're not supposed to know about this though, it's a secret. The atrium or upper level can be considered the core of the vault, specifically because the atrium room itself acts as a central communal hub with access to other rooms, hallways, and levels. The upper level of the vault is one of operations, where all vault management responsibilities are overseen with such rooms like the Overseer Corridor, which leads to the Overseer Quarters, and Overseer Office, which is where the other end of the Overseer escape tunnel connects. This also appears to be a unique and secret feature to Vault 101, but I digress. Also, there's a workroom, a security station, a jail, and a systems room. The lower level of the vault is where we start to find some semblance of day-to-day life with rooms like living quarters, a diner, a classroom, male and female lavatories, a clinic, a cigar lounge, and access to the reactor area with attached storage room. It should also be noted that the immediate area of this level only appears to contain 2 apartments, one belonging to a father and son that recently caused a bit of a ruckus here, more about this shortly, and the other to the Deloria family. There are still some doors that were inaccessible to me within the vault, and considering that there are many other residents seen to be living here, it's easy to speculate that there would be many other areas or levels beyond the inaccessible doors where these residents would reside. And if that's true, then there would be several other types of rooms that would be necessary for life underground too. Vault 101 may potentially be much larger than what I'm granted access to, but I guess I'll never know just how much. Alternatively, the most important fact of Vault 101 that should be considered is that it was built by Vault-Tec. And with what I've learned about Vault-Tec, the vaults weren't always exactly what its inhabitants thought them to be. At some point or another, all the vaults were intended to be opened after having received the all-clear signal from Vault-Tec or proper regulatory agency. However, different and secret plans for Vault 101 existed as part of a more unscrupulous social experiment. While many vaults did in fact receive the all-clear signal, which invariably resulted in the utmost disastrous results, Vault 101's door was never actually scheduled to be opened, like ever. This intention was further supported by the fact that Vault 101 was supplied with enough equipment, except for a GEC, to continue functioning indefinitely, but the deceitful plans for Vault 101 only start here. Officially, Vault 101 was about testing the human condition within a vault that never opened. But the more devious and cunning experiment went much deeper. The true experiment, known only to an unknown select few, was to test the role of the Overseer under these conditions. But even this would be considered rather vague as no further information was found. The first overseer of Vault 101, like the overseer of other vaults, was a Vault-Tec operative placed into their role with the sole purpose of controlling the experiment from within. In part of their duties, the overseer of Vault 101 was responsible for misleading its residents by keeping them in the dark with fake radio transmissions being regularly broadcast within the vault. These broadcasts were fabricated prior to people entering the vault and before the bombs fell in 2077. The recordings often narrated a nuclear-ravaged world filled with chaos, bleaker than what was found outside the vault door, with the goal of preventing anyone from ever wanting to leave and with absolutely no hope of returning to the surface. As far as the dwellers of Vault 101 were concerned, Vault 101 was their only salvation as it had never received an all-clear signal to be opened. 50 years later, in 2127, it was reported that the first overseer dies at the age of 84 and of natural causes, but not before having trained a replacement. From here, the details get a little muddy. I couldn't locate much more information between 2127 to 2277. And about the other overseers before Vault 101 security revoked my access, or rather promptly removed me from their server room. As a result, little is known about the details regarding the role of overseer for Vault 101, like term limits and qualifications needed, including age requirements. So we don't know just how many Vault 101 overseers there were, as there's little that can be determined here for the 150-year gap between the first overseer and the more recent overseer Alphonse Almodovar. However, what was discovered, though not 100% clear, despite the plan to keep the vault indefinitely closed and unbeknownst to the majority of Vault 101 vault dwellers, the overseer did in fact have outside contact. It's difficult to say if any of the overseers simply favored outside communication or if this was another part of the grand scheme of the vault experiment. If the latter, it would explain the existence of a secret tunnel leading directly from the overseer's office to the vault's door. But it could arguably be both when considering that the original overseer was a Vault-Tec operative and may have influenced the design of the vault itself. What I do know is that the ruling overseer before Alphonse Almodovar and a select few did in fact interact with the outside world via radio transmissions and ventures out of the vault and into the Wasteland. This is further confirmed by accessing the terminal in the overseer office and reading through their findings regarding radiation, giant ants, and the remains of a town called Springvale. This overseer and selected group also went as far as the settlement of Megaton and further expressed that the Wasteland was home to greater dangers than giant ants. While this entry provides a few names of the selected few vault dwellers involved, it's not truly known how many or who else knew about these excursions outside of the vault at that time. Perhaps some of those chosen to participate in these clandestine operations declined, or someone had a hard time keeping secrets and gossip spread. But what is known is that some of the residents of Vault 101 were against opening the vault for outside contact after being fed fake radio transmissions for so long. Among those would be Alphonse Almodovar's parents, who have strongly expressed their abhorrence for outside communication, backed by solid concerns for the vault's safety. Naturally, this heavily influenced Alphonse from an early age, and motivated him to correct this fault in security, to the point of a suspicious takeover when the previous overseer and crew mysteriously disappeared while out in the Wasteland. Though the residents of Vault 101 suspected Alphonse may have been behind this, it is what ultimately granted him the role of overseer, with no other choice for leadership for the vault dwellers. Under Alphonse's control, Vault 101 has been operated under the original plan by enforcing his negative views against outside communication. However, and despite his beliefs, he does eventually allow a man named James and his infant child to enter and live in the vault for their immense need of a physician. Many years later, and more recently, James escaped the vault, followed by his child. It's this act that may be considered the final piece in the grand experiment behind Vault 101, ultimately resulting in Alphonse turning the vault into a violent police state, followed by chaos and a new power struggle as the ignorantly sheltered vault residents finally realize that the outside world can be accessed and that life above ground is possible. Now that I've shared enough of what I know about Vault 101, let's get on to the fun stuff, discussing where it is. And if you happen to be the lone wanderer or any of the Vault 101 dwellers listening, then you're already intimately knowledgeable with the vault's whereabouts. But if you're a lost Wastelander or just unfamiliar with Vault 101, you'd probably never know that it was here. After all, this location is underground with nothing but a boarded up cave entrance within a cliffside to mark its spot on the map. As previously mentioned, I wasn't allowed access to the entire vault, so I have little idea of its sheer magnitude and the area that it occupies underground, or how that translates to the surface. However, and more importantly, the cave entrance is all we need to gather the necessary details to determine its location. Vault 101 is one of those places that is lucky enough to have other locations within sight and walking distance that can also be used as reference. Standing outside the cave entrance upon leaving Vault 101, you'll find that the compass is pointing in the direction of east, with a red rocket structure poking just above the edge of the scenic overlook a few feet away. Seen further out towards the direction between east and southeast are the landmarks of the Washington Monument and the Capitol building rising above the horizon. This places Vault 101 far outside the city limits of the Capitol Wasteland ruins. Taking a few steps away from the cave entrance to stand at the scenic overlook, you'll discover towards the east that the red rocket structure previously seen is in fact sitting at the far edge of a ruined town known as Springvale. Additionally, from the scenic overlook, you can also spot two other locations in the not so far distance, one of which was previously brought to my attention when snooping through the Overseer's terminal in Vault 101. This would be the settlement of Megaton and can be found towards the southeast past a water tower. The other is the Springvale Elementary School, partially visible beyond the cliffside formation of the scenic overlook towards the northeast and at the opposite end of the town of Springvale. Knowledge about these other locations can greatly assist anyone in finding Vault 101, or at least putting you in proximity to it. But this is not the only method that's going to be relied upon to solidify its position on the map. Topographical information will also be considered. Luckily, the Potomac River provides two other significant clues, the more direct being that Vault 101 is seen south of the river. And as Vault 101 is outside of the DC city limits, it only confirms that the vault is in Virginia. The other clue is with one of its more aggressive bends. It can be seen as somewhat of a reverse S shape, or as a hard bend to the south with a straight-like longitudinal stretch before turning back out to the east as it flows towards the DC city ruins. Vault 101 happens to be a location that aligns nicely with this rather obvious bend. A straight line can be drawn north from Vault 101 to meet this corner of land on the Virginia side of the river. This drawn line also appears to align nicely with this somewhat latitudinal stretch of this portion of the river, thus resulting in a simple but effective clue to use on the pre-Great War map. Lastly, if we look at the world map, Vault 101 is also found to roughly align longitudinally with this point of the Capitol Wasteland city limits on the Maryland side of the Potomac River. Bombs from the Great War, coupled with 200 years of time, radiation, and decay have all done the world tremendous damage. The fact that anything has survived is remarkable within itself, and it's what has survived that will further assist us in the research for the Capitol Wasteland travel guide. Stepping outside from the cave leading to the entrance of Vault 101 puts you in view of a few locations that have been previously addressed, but let's ignore these and take another look for any other possible clues. At first glance, it may not seem like much, but immediately at the bottom of the scenic overlook is a large road that passes by with direct access to Springvale, so we know that Vault 101 isn't far from a clear and open path into town. Additionally, facing the south gives sight of a ruined section of an elevated highway overpass that in its current state doesn't appear to be a direct part of the road below the scenic overlook. And after spending further time here, there isn't anything more that immediately stands out or is worth taking note of. However, these two additional items support the idea of Vault 101 being located near a busy transportation area. After having collected so much information about Vault 101, it leaves just one more task to complete, placing Vault 101 on the pre-Great War map, or more realistically speaking, finding Vault 101 in our real world. We already know that Vault 101 is not a real location and does not actually exist on the real world map, though I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in wishing it did, and believe many of us would be attempting to access it on a more frequent basis if it did. So it's important to consider that any conclusion drawn with locations such as this would not be completely accurate and is more of an educated guess. Vault 101 being completely made up for Fallout makes the task of placing it on the real world one of the more challenging ones, but this doesn't mean that it can't be determined. So, using all the clues and references that have been collected will be important in attempting to pinpoint it on the map, and if anything in the area is found to have inspired its in-game location, it will simply be a bonus. In the very least, despite all else, we'll know where it should be. Let's begin by laying out the clues that have been collected by starting with the easiest and most obvious of them all. In Fallout 3, it was determined that Vault 101 is located far outside the city ruins of the capital Wasteland, so I know not to look within the boundaries of Washington, D.C. It's also found south of the Potomac River, significantly narrowing down Vault 101's location to be in Virginia. Speaking of the Potomac River, it was noted that the significant meander of it sat directly north of Vault 101. On the real-world map, this meander would be located here. With this, a straight longitudinal line can be drawn south from this corner of land in Virginia to eventually find a major road. Then, looking at the longitudinal data, a line can be drawn from this corner of Washington, D.C. on the Maryland side of the Potomac River in the direction of Vault 101. The intersection of these two lines gives us the spot of where to pin Vault 101 on the real-world map. And so, quite simply, according to these findings, Vault 101 would be located here on Leesburg Pike Route 7 near the 267 West exit for the Dulles Access Road leading to Dulles Airport. But why stop here? It would be easy to conclude that this is where Vault 101 is with these findings thus far, but let's dive a little deeper as there are additional supporting clues from Fallout 3. And let's note that by revealing the following locations on the real-world map here, will be for the sake of further confirming Vault 101's suspected location, and they will be further reviewed individually in their respective holotapes. But by applying these details, the comparison shows that this spot for Vault 101 may not be too far off for a conclusion. As previously seen for these referencing locations, the following pins can be placed. From Vault 101, Springvale is in the direction of east, with Springvale Elementary School found in the direction of northeast, and Megaton towards the southeast. Additionally, this spot on the map for Vault 101 also displays other features like a road towards Springvale, scenic overlook, and an overpass found in the southwest. Fallout does a great job of representing the areas in which the game takes place, resulting in a lot of information that can be used to determine where locations are in the real world, specifically locations that do not actually exist like Vault 101. Vault 101's alignment with specific topographical details, proximity to nearby locations, and other local features have proven to produce good matches in both the real-world and Fallout maps, further supporting the end results. I can confidently say that this spot on the pre-Great War map is the best guess placement for Vault 101. What are your thoughts? If Vault 101 were a real location, would this be the best guess to pin Vault 101's spot on the map? Or is there perhaps another area with more supporting details that would be better suited? Let me know in the comments below, or if you're in the Wasteland, maybe scribble on a rock near where you found this holotape and I'll find it later. Hey Wastelander, don't forget to check out the description of this video where you can find additional information, including all my links like the one for the Capital Wasteland Travel Guide website. If you're wanting more Capital Wasteland Travel Guide content or just more general Fallout content, here you'll find numerous pages like holotapes to stay up to date with episodes, maps where you can explore more found locations, notes to read up on Dom Quantum lore and other stories, an about page for further information behind the series, meet the crew to read up on character bios, reviews to find out what others are saying about the Capital Wasteland Travel Guide, support in case you'd like to support the project further, charity if you'd also like to help us help some great causes, special thanks to commemorate our biggest supporters, Quantum Shop, for all that fun loot, and lots more. Lastly, don't forget to comment and drop a like on this episode, and if you really like it, please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification button to be aware of new content. It's a big help and completely free. If you really want to support the channel, hit that super like button or become a channel member for additional perks and access to members only content. But however you choose to show your support is greatly appreciated. So thank you. If we load up where Vault 101 is on the large map for Fallout, it's actually way out here. And if we turn off the large map, we'll see that it's saying Vault 101 is located way out here. Now, I disagree with this because it's not like a straight path to Springvale, and there's no visible hill that we can see. There's no cliffside overlook that we can see, and there's no visible overpass from this destination. So there's a few things here that kind of make me not want to say this is where Vault 101 would be. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's a probability that I'm not considering. The water guy is he's up and about, and he's asking this guy for water. It's actually really hard to spend a lot of time out in these places where there's nothing here.
I'm getting a lot of bloopers reels, but hopefully I can kind of use that as well for other portions of the video.
Is there a Deathclaw over here? Is this the Enclave? What is going on over here? No, it's the Outcast, and then there's a random Deathclaw. Oh, geez. The other locations on the large map are kind of where they should be, right? You have the Potomac River. It's closer to the Potomac River, the school is. And then Megaton and everything is way out here. There's just so much interesting stuff about this, but it just pushes everything further out and in locations where it doesn't really have anything that matches anything in those areas. Well, for Springville Elementary specifically, this is like a large, rich neighborhood which doesn't have a school, and there's nothing out here. All right, Caravaner on the move. We got this guy cleaning up. Wait, what is... Hold on a second. Isn't that the water guy?
It's kind of too bad Vault 101 doesn't exist, actually. It would be interesting to see something here that would resemble a vault.
They're walking past Vault 101 right now. I'm actually super curious if they're going to fight the Outcast, maybe fight the Deathclaw. Oh god. Fight the Deathclaw? And if we go back to our Vault 101 area and we say this is the proper scale for Vault 101 for the small map, for the distances with DC and everything, and we turn on our small map markers, we can kind of see where the other locations should be based off of this distance. And then we can kind of turn off our mini map here. And we can kind of see, just looking at the small map information with our actual findings, that we're really not too far off. You know what? It's probably because I have this command off. Let's see what happens. Oh god. Whoa. Yeah, this is why you don't mess with the Deathclaws. What the heck? Who's this? Hold on, is that just a regular butt? What is he doing? Additionally, it's kind of interesting because you have Springvale on the small map here. This is kind of like an interesting spot for Vault 101. I did consider this as well, but there's no overpass to the south necessarily. Another kind of fun place I did consider for Vault 101 would be the Wolf Trap. However, there's no overpass to the south. There's one to the west, but there's not quite one to the south. So again, I kind of just ruled that out for simple things like that.
Let's head back to the car, get warm, have some coffee, and see what our next location is gonna be. Ooh, chilly. You can see my breath. Well, you guys can't, but I can. All right.
All right, somebody's booking it. They're running from way far out. It's another Brotherhood. And an iguana. All right, he just left Springvale. Are they taking over this caravan? Dude, they just took this caravan.